Our guest right now is Miss Linda Hebert,
Hebert.
and you are a family service counselor with Dignity Memorial.
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you
Been
very
looking
much.
forward to chatting with you because you are somebody who provides services that I used to, and I'm very much a believer in pre-planning and taking a burden off of people that is there. It's not maybe, it's there. You know, I used to
Right.
tell people, you've got a bill. It's already there. It's called your funeral expense. So,
And it's growing.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got started, because people don't generally grow up wanting to be
No,
helping people pre-plan.
no, it's an interesting story. But I'll tell you what happens is the older you get, or this happened to me, is you tend to want to make a difference. So it's
That's a
really,
good point,
it's
yeah.
really important to have your work have some kind of meaning. So what happened to me is, and I don't know if others are like this, but in our family, we never talked about death. We were all about striving and, you know,
Sure.
and making our
Life.
goals, life, right?
Yeah.
And so I was busy doing that, and we never experienced death. And so here I was in my late 40s before I experienced death. And
Wow.
when it happened, there within a 4-year period, that we had 5 immediate deaths
Ooh,
in me and my
gosh.
husband's
Wow.
life, and it rocked my world.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
it does something to you. And what happened during that time is only one of them was prearranged.
I was just going to ask you, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so after that happened, it was such a big difference. Me and my husband actually started really looking into this idea of how, you know, we never talked about it. We actually we went to a death doula course. We started
Wow.
volunteering for hospice.
Really?
I was, at St. Agnes on the spiritual care, really kind of getting
Wow.
into the, you know, let's talk about this. You know, having death dinners. I mean, really. So what
actually heard of
happened? I
those,
know.
but,
Yeah.
wow.
No,
Yeah,
if you
that's-
Google it, it's very interesting.
Wow.
So the whole idea is this is something that we all are going to face. We
That's
all
a
share
great
in
point.
humanity, and so, but we avoid it.
Yep.
So this is funny, interesting, but I was starting to put together a series of talks, and I could go out and just have people, let's have a talk about this. Just start talking about it, you know. When you lean into what you are afraid of, it disappears. So actually,
Good
I
point.
belong to Rotary, and I was talking to one of my Rotarians, Jason Obanoff, and he is a funeral director over at Stevens and Bean, and he was listening to what I was doing, and he said, "Linda, this is exactly what we do." And so,
Wow.
yeah, so it made me pause, and I started to look what's out there, and I started doing research on the company, and I saw that they actually provide more than what I could do, and so I jumped on board.
Really? Wow.
And I completely changed my career. Yeah.
Wow,
And
wow.
so I have the privilege of sitting down with people, and you know, I'm passionate about helping them. You know, I don't think anyone should walk through our doors on the worst day of their lives without being prepared.
Yeah, amen. No kidding. It's so tough, and people always spend more because of either love or guilt.
Right.
You know,
right.
and because it's either I love mom so much I want to give her the very best, or well, we didn't have the greatest, you know, and they feel like they got to make it all up on that day. And I always tell people, folks, your kids are going to spend your money, not theirs. So one of the questions we would ask is, do you really want your, you know, especially if it wasn't the best relationship, do you really want that son or that daughter spending your money out of guilt
Right.
to put you away?
Right.
You know, do you think they're going to spend too much? Most people would say absolutely.
Yeah.
Some would say, well, I hope so. And so, but you know, mom and dad are generally more frugal and better stewards than the next generation. And so to be able to have something done where not only, you know, financially does it make sense, but but you know, just a legacy like I think you're going to talk about, to let your family know this is my wish.
That's a big darn deal right there, what you said, because when they walk in, when the family, if they can know that they did what their parents or their loved ones or their whoever,
Exactly.
we don't know, we could go tomorrow, but if they know that they did what your wishes are and they did the right thing, then it helps with their...
It does, with the healing.
Yeah, with the
You bet.
healing.
It definitely does. And folks, you know what? Something that I've seen, you know what? I've been wanting to do a show about this for a long time, and I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that it's you.
Me too.
Unfortunately, the funeral business, in the pre-planning side of it, has a lot of short-term people. They don't
Right.
stick around very often. And so to see somebody who came about, actually in the way that you did, I don't know that I've ever known anybody with quite the same kind of circumstances. So you were a believer in pre-planning before it was actually a way for you to enjoy
Right.
making
It's
a
not
living
it's
as
not
well.
just
So
right.
yeah,
That's right.
it's a passion as opposed
It's a
to just
mission, actually.
a
Yeah,
profession. Yeah, and that's something that's amazing. And so you do talks, and what do you like to talk about when you go out and share?
Well, I like to talk about how to leave a legacy.
Okay.
The important things to have written down. And one of the things is love letters.
Okay.
You know, express. I mean, your family
Mm-hmm.
can cherish one card that you specifically say
That's right.
how much you love and appreciate them, and a couple of qualities.
Boy, no kidding.
Yeah,
No kidding.
simple things.
That's a really important thing. I know people, if you're watching, you probably have something that you've held on to from your parent or somebody that was really near and dear to you, and it's priceless. You know, it's
really
invaluable. One of the things that we've done is incorporated in our estate planning documents pages for people just to handwrite
That's right.
the same thing. You know, it means so much. It's just invaluable, and so you go out and you talk to people. You do a great job of telling them about the importance of that. I know you've got some tools with you that you use, so let's talk about those a minute.
Sure. So one of the things that I have the privilege of doing is helping people write down their wishes. So besides
Okay.
the little love letters, I mean, there's some really, really important, that's kind of a heartfelt one, but there's some really important things to have written down. And so I actually help people go through this personal planning guide. Here, we'll do that.
There you go.
There you go. And this is a free tool that actually we give out.
Okay.
And so it helps put a plan into place for the family. So, you know, if you and your wife were to go out to dinner tonight and you don't make it home, it's like, who is going to be sitting with me
Yeah.
tomorrow? And will they have a plan? So this will answer over 90% of all the questions that
Really?
they'll need. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
you know, there's important things such as, you know, on the death certificate, what is their mother's maiden name and where was she born? And when you just experienced a death, it's like you go numb.
Can't remember your own name.
You can't remember.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's some of the financial things that we write down, passwords on your internet. You know, we don't think about that. If you don't have those things written down,
Yeah.
then they are forever
That's
right.
right.
up there.
Yeah.
And we also have one for veterans. So there's specific benefits that veterans have. And so we like to make sure that these get in your hands, and these are actually free. And this is what I get to do. So whether it's ever, there's two parts. When there's a death, there's the emotional part and there's the financial part.
And
So
it's
we're
not a good
talking-
combination
No.
to have to deal with both of them at the same time.
Right. And with
Wow.
family dynamics, mixed families, and you get into both of those, if you don't have a plan in place, it can get kind of sticky.
Yeah, I think you're right. So
Yeah.
I know that you're speaking currently in some places, and you're trying to stay busy doing that. But the Clovis Senior Center, what do you do there?
So I'm currently speaking for the next few weeks. I'm kind of halfway in. It's a 4-week process, and so I go and I talk about it's basically your life and your legacy, and how to, the important things to have written down. And then we actually like get in there and write some important things. So one of
it's interactive.
So it's interactive. So one of
That's cool.
the one that's coming up, it's on Thursdays at 1 o'clock, and the one that's coming up, we are actually making cards. We've taken the class before. We talked about, instead of writing your whole life story, take one story, write a little segment, write stories. So now we're going to take that story and we're going to make a card out of, it's like an interactive art project. So they can tell the story to their family by just, this is a card. Well, what is that? And
Really?
then they can tell the story. Yeah, it's kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think it hopefully would remove some of the, I don't know, the mystique or whatever of, oh, we're going to talk
It's
about
starting the
my
conversation.
passing. Jeez
Yeah, that's
Louise.
right.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
right. That's right.
So Dignity Memorial, you guys, I know that SCI is probably still the world's largest funeral provider.
Yes.
So you have tons of resources. You have every option available for people, whether they choose cremation or any other type of interment, memorialization options, more than you could probably ever dream, are probably available today.
There's a plan for everyone.
There, I could imagine. I could
Yeah,
imagine.
there really is.
So one of the things that, in my background, I helped people pre-plan as part of our estate planning. I still like to refer people to do that because, as we talked about before going on air, it was my experience, people would always, at the time of need, spend way too much because of love or guilt. They either love mom so much, they just wanted to put her away the very best, nothing's, and it was usually the sons, nothing's too good for my mom. And then you always have the out-of-town sibling who maybe wasn't as close to mom that comes in and has to like be in charge, and I've got to do everything because my mom, and the ones that were local that took care of her day in and day out were kind of like whatever. But
You've done this.
Yeah, but these things are interesting because mom just wants to be put away and simple and don't do something that I wouldn't have done for myself. And as people get older, it becomes more important to them that what's shared about them and what's remembered about them is who they were,
Correct.
not how they were put away.
Correct.
And I imagine that with your time, but you've seen enough of that to realize that death really is a very difficult time to make any decision, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It really is.
And what you just said was really important, is spending too much. One of the reasons we want to pre-plan is because you freeze the cost.
Exactly.
So if you put your wishes down and freeze the cost, and you also have options of payment, but when there's a death, 100% is due now.
Yep.
So there's options, and you just have to have the conversation before.
Sure.
Well,
even to be able to take the first step and just to complete a personal planning guide.
With help. With someone nice.
You're not scary at all,
That's right.
So, geez,
right.
That's huge, and that's so valuable.
It really,
it
it's
really
crucial.
is. It really is, and that's a great first steps, folks. Anybody who's watched the show, they know I'm a big proponent of pre-planning, but I also am a proponent of prepaying, funding that, because you do lock in the price. But you also are being a good steward, and you're making sure that you're getting something that, folks, none of us is going to get out of this world without needing these services, obviously. And so to be able to, like we do anything else, if I go buy a pair of shoes, I want to get a deal. I want to, be wise with my money. And so a funeral's no different. And I'm 57, so my wife and I pre-planned easily 15 years ago, if not more than that. I think more like 20.
You've saved a lot of money.
Because I couldn't honestly tell people, you need
That's
to do
right.
this.
And not do it.
And not do it.
Yeah.
And of course, I was much younger than anybody I was ever sitting down with most of the time. But still, it's the concept. None of us is going to get out of this without needing some kind of service. And so you guys are providing a great service. Pre-planning is so important. One of the things that happens is that, you know, we all, like in my family, there's 3 of us, 3
Okay.
kids. So we all have a little bit different relationship with our parents.
Right.
Obviously, we're close. You know, we're on the same page probably 99% of the time. But we're all different. So what we think is appropriate or what we think Mom wanted, we might have difference of opinion at times.
You know what? That's huge. And especially if Mom wants to have cremation now.
Ooh,
And
that's big.
It
isn't
is big because if there's not a spouse and now the
That's
kids
right.
are all deciding, if one person says
Bingo.
no, there's a fight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
That's
yeah.
a great point. And also, so not to have death tear your family apart,
right.
what we spoke about earlier, to know that you can walk out of there, maybe I don't like everything that we just did, but it was what Mom wanted.
That's it.
And it keeps the family
That's right.
together. You know, we have peace of mind to know that I did what she wanted. I can have peace of mind. I'm good with the fact that I honored her and what she wanted.
It's huge.
It is.
So
it really is.
I've never had anyone walk through those doors and left and said, "Oh, I wish Mom didn't do this pre-plan." Never. It has never happened. They're very grateful.
That's a great point. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a great point. And
Yeah.
so, you know, if people, it's funny when you have an experience, you either go in and you didn't pre-plan and you really wish they would have, or you did pre-plan and you realize, thank God, I'm going to make sure I do it for myself.
That's right.
So you actually provide some service to people that at the time, whether they pre-planned or not, you're able to follow up and give them resources.
That's right. That's right.
So they can maybe make that decision for themselves.
Well, and what happens is they've just been through it, and it's been very traumatic. So, you know, it's really touchy. You know, I
Yeah.
go in and I give them resources for grief and different things that are very, and we have some really great
Yeah, you
resources
do.
that help along the way. But since they've just been through it, we would like to, it's like, okay, if this is something you need to do, you already go, oh, I want this, but I
Exactly.
want something a little bit different. It's already
Sure.
there. So it's like, while we're here, let's be here fully
Yeah.
and take
Yeah.
care of it. And then you don't have to think about it again, and you just go on living.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're there to share. We'll all be able to share with someone else because every single one of us will deal with this.
It's really true. One of the things that I used to just laugh about is people would you know, they would really struggle letting you come into their home because I don't want to talk about it. Some people say, oh my God, if I do that, that means it's going to bring
That's
it
right.
on, you know.
That's right.
But then once they did, you know, in order to get them happily involved, they might, you know, give you a little opposition and, well, I got to think about it, pray about it, whatever. But once they actually did it, they've been wanting to do it the whole time. That's why they even, you know, maybe called or sent in
Right.
for some information. But to actually get them across the bridge where they actually did it, people would always say, oh my God, I feel so much better.
That's right. It's
You know?
it's a
And
can mark
so-
it off.
Exactly, and you feel good about what you have done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very few things actually make people feel so good. Like, you know, I did the right thing for my family, and you know, this is being responsible and caring, and so. And last, because we got to get. Guess
Oh, my.
what? You're available to go talk to people too, aren't you?
I am.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly
Wow.
what I do.
So obviously you're not scary. You're not all dark and gloomy, and you very caring. And so, folks, I'd recommend that you call Linda, and your number is up there on the screen, 472-3014. Even if you just have some questions and want to know if everything that we just said is really true, well, then call and ask her. So
That's right. And I am at Stevens and Bean Funeral Chapel. Do represent 6 funeral chapels here in the valley, but that one I am inside. If that's another number, 268-9292.
there you go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
We're going to
Thank
have you back.
you.
Yeah, you got to come
Yeah,
back, and
yeah.
we'll expand on this. But folks, if you've ever been thinking about it, now's the time. Make a call, get some information. If nothing else, get your your personal planning guide and get the information down on paper and do it for yourself. Feel good about what you're doing and also do it for your family. So this is Truth for Seniors. We're going to be back next Wednesday at 2. In the meantime, be safe and have a wonderful day. And Linda, thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good day. See you next week.